Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and every body in between. Welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined. Don't know where the stutter intro came from, chaps, but I'm running with it. By Sambo and Johnny. How are we, fellas?
Good. Very well. Just slightly distracted because you guys filled me in, so I'm just off to the side of my screen here watching the pinnacle of the culture of the Melbourne Football Club unfolding.
It's glorious, isn't it?
Jesus.
Our tight-knit group they are.
Yeah.
Very tight.
Far out.
Yeah, cannot believe. Oh, have they got clips? Have they clipped off the shit?
Yeah.
At the end, if anyone hasn't seen it, Stephen May and Max Gawn, after Gorney has a bit of a brain fart and just absolutely mungs the ball. I hate that word. I've got to something else. It absolutely
Butchers.
just, I don't know. Butchers. Thank you, John. Much better.
It's a word that disappeared for a long time, and it's resurged recently, I've noticed.
Back with a force. Yeah, back with a vengeance. The mung kick. Back with a vengeance. Thanks, BT. Yes, no, there looks like some choice words and perhaps a bit of shoving shared after the siren between Max Gawn and Stephen May. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, away from that dysfunctional shithole and onto an extremely functional shithole, this podcast. On the show tonight, the Cats snuff out Suns in round 13. That's how it works. Public part of the show. We're going to recap the game. Geelong winning in the wet. We'll talk all about that. Then we're going to duck over onto the Patreon. You know what to do. If you want to come over and help us get to 50 Patreon subscribers before the end of the season, go on and sign up for a 7-day free trial, because that's where we're going after the public part of the show. We'll unload any extra thoughts from our notebook. We might talk a bit about the Chris Scott presser. We might discuss, who knows, last week, we'd had our month in review. We looked back at the last 4 games. We'll always cast our eyes forward to the next match against the Bombers. So there's lots of stuff to dig into on the Patreon.
Cats are still just absolutely fooling everyone with the injury list because they should have put Bailey Smith as a test, apparently.
Oh, now, Johnny, we don't stir the beast. We don't want to have any more fireside meetings. We don't have any more fireside meetings.
Just, to be fair and open to the fans, they've got to be told the truth.
Gambling addicts, gambling companies. We're going to jump into it. We hope you jump into it, meaning the Patreon. But before we get into the public part of the show, a quick word from the people who make the show possible. The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
There'd be 1,000 blossoms bloom.
Yes, indeed. All right, let's jump into it. We start, of course, with the recap. Saturday, rain drizzling to the earth as the gods weep above a forgotten land. Golden headlight of a motorbike storms into view, then turns sharply into a small broken-down roadside motel. A leather-garbed figure departs the hissing steel horse, stows a sawn-off rifle in their pack, and trudges into the office. Money changes hands, and swiftly. Desk clerk has no wish to raise the ire of the grim-jawed visitor. The visitor no time to have her ire raised. Lodgings acquired, room 12B. Door flicked open, slammed shut, bolted, latched and locked. Heavy boots ripped off and thrown in a corner. Pack unzipped on the cheap roach-infested bed. A reptilian passenger emerges. A sprightly iguana who now begins to explore the roach smorgasbord in the crevices of the room. With a sigh, Julie Skirtbellows rips off her rain-soaked leathers and swaps into grey sweatpants and hoodie. The road has been hard on her. Raising rebellion has worn away any softness from her mind. She watches Agora, her pet iguana, hunt pests on the floor. She wonders how the rebellion against the corporate overlords who held captive her life will ever be roused. The people are afraid, unwilling to rise. She clicks on the television. A rain-soaked contest at Cardinia Park bursts through the growing frustration of Julie Skirtbellows' mind. Tough footy, hard footy in the wet. The Cats bring pressure and effort from all corners early. Tom Atkins and Lawson Humphreys strike their names on the scoreboard first as the home team takes a 2-2-14 to 0-2-2 lead at the first changing of ends. The Suns are not quick to wilt. They rally in the second term, the ball suddenly flowing in their direction. Pink dashes light up the drizzle of the night as the team from the Gold Coast snare 3 of the next 4 goals. Brad Close's lone major serving as Geelong's response. Importantly, as the scores hover at level, it is the Cats who draw away just before the halftime break as Tyson Stengel enters the stage to slot the first of many. Jed Walter goals early in the third term, but Geelong, having circled their opponent in the octagon, suddenly take them to the mat to begin the application of a set of anaconda-like finishing manoeuvres. Pressure lifts, tackles fly in tirelessly, the great wall of intercepting defenders in headbands take charge. Geelong's on-ball brigade bludgeon their Suns' opponents around the contest. Tyson Stengel inks the game's next 2 goals, extending the home side's advantage to 16 points at the final break. The Suns struggle to escape the press of the hoop menace, but the hold is too fierce, the technique immaculate. The Cats apply the final chokehold. 3 of the game's 4 final quarter goals from the boots of Dempsey, Myers, and the razor-sharp Tyson Stengel, who claims 4 goals in a season-best performance for the darting small forward. With more contested and uncontested possession, more marks, more tackles, this is a total team victory for the Cats. In conditions ripe for a knife fight, the Cats packed their machetes, their knuckle dusters, barbed wire baseball bats, and bellies full of fire and ferocity. An exertion of absolute control against a team that had shaped itself in the first half of 2025 as a potential flag contender. How? Julie Skirtbellows ponders. She notes the absence of Bailey Smith, Geelong's golden mullet Adonis, who had previously made all opposing teams bend the knee to his will. She notes too the match-ending injury to Shannon Neal, a towering key post and backup ruck for the Cats. Acknowledge too the absence of any scoreboard involvement from gangly spearhead Jeremy Cameron or bullocking former mid, now forward captain Patrick Dangerfield. Excellent tactical application and spirited effort, in the absence of perfect circumstances, has often underlined Geelong performances this season. Wins have often come without key personnel on the field, with lesser lights and top-up mature age players playing key roles to extract triumph instead of tragedy. These are the thoughts that swirl in the mind of former corporate typist turned social revolutionary Julie Skirtbellows as she drifts off to sleep in a desolate roadside motel. Total commitment, total effort, immense tactical application. Only then can the corporate overlords be overthrown and the bright future she imagines for herself and Agora be realised. Cats 9-7-61, Suns 5-7-37. Sambo, your thoughts?
Fantastic intro as always.
Very melancholy.
Was the iguana named after like the movie Agora, or is that just like about the ancient astronomer and physicist or mathematician?
I believe Agora the iguana was named after said figure.
Just
played by Rachel Weisz, correct?
That's right. Asking the important questions here. Although
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. Well, I don't think Agora was. Agora is the movie, right? I think not the name of the character. I can't remember. I feel like I learned this just the other day. Although I've watched the movie, I feel like I looked this up the other day and found out that it was not the name of the character.
It's possible that Julie Skirtbellows' ghostwriter may not have grasped all historical facts to do with the film.
But she may have just named it after the film because she liked the film.
True. Great film. Great movie.
It's
Great picture.
it is a good one.
Haven't seen it. So I wouldn't know.
I'd recommend.
Add it to the
John.
list.
Just had to quickly sneakily get rid of gum. I just realized I had in my mouth still. God, the professionalism just oozing out my pores tonight. I gotta say.
Oh,
really is.
This was possibly. I feel like we might say this every week. Do we say this every week? That this might be my favorite
we
win
win
of
a
the
lot
year.
of games.
We win a lot of games, and all of them are
It's-
good wins. So, I think the Port Adelaide one doesn't contend for my favorite win of the year.
Oh, last
Apart
week.
from, yeah, that's fair. Last week, I mean, no, last week's not going to be, but it would be in the conversation for me. I was still happy with a lot of what we did in a game that we didn't expect to be playing. Really, the way that game went down. But this one, I don't know. It was just right for me. Everyone's got the wind right up the Suns, and nobody's really talking about the Cats to that level. And just with the wet and the conditions, not that I doubt our ability in different conditions, but it's just another tick, I suppose, for me in a very different kind of game. We haven't played this game this year. Like, we're just stacking up all the different varieties of wins. Clutch last minute wins, giant beltings, really fantastic, contested all night games, and now this, like a tough, wet, dreary game where we were just able to kind of boa constrictor them all night and just suffocate them and be super efficient on the way back. Like, yeah, I don't know. I was stoked. I thought it was a really, really impressive win, professional and clinical, but the toughness required to we outpossessed them and out tackled them. I don't know. Like, outside of the scoreboard, like, I don't see how you could have a more convincing win. So that's my general feeling.
Yeah, I'm feeling very similar. As Sam said, that was boa constricting. It was professional. It was constructed extremely well. The setup was as good as it could have been with the way the defense worked in tandem with then the midfield and then going inside 50. Like, the inside 50 still wasn't 100% perfect. But if they didn't have Sam Collins playing for the Suns, then we would have absolutely slaughtered them by halftime. He was pretty impressive for the Suns early on. But you sort of work around that really easily in that third quarter. And he had, I think, very little impact after halftime. So to see the Cats not just work out how to control the Suns, but also how to control the ball around their really good players was really impressive. And it just showed the professionalism and the maturity of this team, especially with such, a youngish side, some young players in there, and they all didn't seem like there was young players out there. Like the young guys, Lawson Humphreys, Ollie Dempsey, even Stengel, like he's not a young guy, but he's still seems like he's maturing still. So like the way he stood up, the way everyone stood up at crucial moments, yeah, it was a really impressive win and one of my favourites. I thought it was one of our best quarters, that third quarter, and one of our best games, the way we went about it. Very, very happy.
Yeah, it felt like once we locked in that third term, it was just like that there was no hope. It was just a graveyard of Suns' ambitions in the end. Like they just, that's what I wrote in the intro, chaps. Like it was almost total outside of that patch in the second term. There was almost no facet of the game. Like, you could maybe pluck out, things like Collins probably had a win, for, in a fair chunk of the game. He probably played pretty well. I think the Suns would be pretty happy with how they defended, some of the high ball from Geelong, in terms of trying to get their, the Cats trying to get their tools involved.
I think center
there was
that is the only stats they won.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it's sort of just like the rest of it is just Geelong. I was saying to Johnny before you jumped in the studio, Sambo, if you saw it, that's the stats by AFL fantasy points. Of the top 20 players, 14 of them are Geelong players. Of the top 20 disposal getters on the ground, 13 are Geelong players. Of the marks in the top 20, Geelong have 14 of the top 20 players for marks. Of the tacklers, Geelong have 14 of the top 20 for tackles. Like, it was, I think that's what stands out to me. The amount of contested ball we won, the amount of uncontested ball we created via our spread, and the way that we were able to kick and mark the ball on a wet night where you could have been excused for, going like, oh, well, it wasn't good conditions to move it cleanly. If anything, I think it probably makes me think some of the other forwards probably should have kicked better. Like, there was maybe not as much of an excuse for different forwards within the game not to get involved. Perhaps they were just well held by their defenders, because Geelong executed pretty well, nearly 70% disposal efficiency, and to create that mark and spread, I thought was really, really impressive.
And to do it all without Bailey
for-
Smith, and then without Neil.
Yeah. And then
I was going to throw to you here, and you go.
I was just saying, with Dangerfield and Jeremy Cameron have been very little impact on the game. Like, I still think they had some big moments throughout the game, but you could count the moments between those two on nearly one hand, like those really important moments that they had a big hand in. The rest was Max Holmes, Tom Atkins, Ollie Dempsey, Stengel, Jack Henry, all those other guys just stood up everywhere. And it was just, incredible to watch. Even Oisin Mullen had some really crucial moments.
Do you guys have the stats in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
We'll look away from them for a minute, unless you've already looked at this. But where do you think Dangerfield and Jeremy Cameron ranked for disposals on the night out of the Cats team?
I would say bottom 5.
I would say Dangerfield will probably be in the mid table, and Jeremy would be down the bottom.
They are the third lowest and second lowest disposal getters on the ground for the Cats. Only Shannon Neal, who was subbed out, had fewer touches. So Dangerfield, 7 disposals for the night. Cameron, 6 disposals for the night.
I was prepared to go for the trick question there. I thought you were throwing a trick question for Dangerfield. I thought, I'm going to go middle table just to cover myself.
Yeah. So, like, there's those sort of like the performance absence, of those players who, like, let's face it, Dangerfield's just coming back. He's probably realistically not at peak performance right now after a few weeks on the sidelines. Not really necessarily weather for Cameron. And as we said, you sometimes got to tip your hat and say the other team played pretty well in certain areas of their game. But go to the midfield. Like, no Bailey Smith. This felt like such a sort of, petri dish kind of experiment of like, okay, we have just had like almost 2 months of the best footy we could have possibly hoped for from Bailey Smith. Now he's gone. He's out of the mix against a midfield that's been pretty hyped, I feel like, particularly that ability like of players like Rao. Who's the other guy? I'm just trying to think that they always talk about. Anderson and Tuke Miller is another player that, Tuke Miller often, racks it up against us. And, Max Holmes, arguably one of his best games ever for the club, 40 touches, 6 marks, 5 tackles, 10 clearances, 860 meters gained. Atkins, 23 touches, 16 contested possessions, 8 clearances, 7 tackles, and a goal. Mark O'Connor, 21 touches, 7 clearances, and 10 tackles. Shaun Mannagh, 23 disposals, 5 tackles, 6 clearances, and you got Brian Myers chiming in with 26 touches and a goal, and some fucking outrageous hit-ups. There's one out on the far wing where I can't remember, I can't exactly describe it, but it was like a, oh, what the hell kind of moment. Like, just his skill in that moment was outstanding. So what did you think about the midfield's performance, chaps? Like, I guess we could talk about where you rate the performance for Holmes. I'd definitely like to dig into whether we think Mark O'Connor is playing best, like career best footy. I'm happy to sort of,
Yeah.
throw some glory on Tom Atkins as well, who I think is definitely playing career best footy. But what angle do you want to take as we discuss the midfield?
Any of it.
Yeah.
I will say,
pretty
like, I
good.
just want to, like, I guess this relates to Tom Atkins. Like, I feel like Tom Atkins is finally getting a little bit of um love from elsewhere, but it's still just interesting how it fits into the narratives of, like, and don't get me wrong, I love Brian Myers. Brian Myers, I'm still tossing it up, but I think Brian Myers is in my votes this week, so I'm not in any way dissing Brian Myers. But they do whole segments on Brian Myers in the
Yeah.
like the recap and the days following. They'll do segments on how, like, and this is why he gets so many. It was Matthew Lloyd that was saying that it was like he gets so many goal assists and score involvements. They don't mention Tom Atkins, and Tom Atkins had more goal assists and equal score involvements to Brian Myers. So, like, it's just one of those things where, like, nothing against Brian Myers, and he is brilliant, and the way he does it is obviously different to the way Tom Atkins does it. But it's just funny that, like, the way the information gets funneled through these preconceived notions. It's like, well, we're going to talk about his score involvements in his part. And if they were to talk about Tom Atkins, I'm sure they'd just talk about the tackling, because they go, well, that's what he does, and that's what we like to see. So it's just, it's sort of a side note. But yeah, I thought Tom Atkins was one of those, like, tone setters, and he has been for a long time, pretty consistently. But I think this is probably his most consistent month of being that, of, like, every game. He's like, if he kicks a goal, it's like one of our first goals, if not our first goal, or he'll kick it against the flow of play when we're up against, when we got our backs against the walls. He just sort of demonstrates the work ethic, the work rate that's required. And I just can't get enough of him performing at this level, really. And I think Max Holmes and Bailey Smith are generally the best player on the ground, but I think they're only the best player on the ground because Tom Atkins allows them to be with what he does.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think Max Holmes is getting the 40 disposals if Tom Atkins isn't there, just being the bull terrier, going after the ball and getting it out to those two players. Like, it is a shame that he's not getting more love, but is starting to get pretty hard to ignore from the outer AFL world you'd expect now. Like, he's been playing ridiculously good football for the last 2 months. Like, it's so incredibly consistent. Tackling still like 10 average, 126 now. Like, it's just an absolute piece of player. And kicking goals. Like, it's just, he's a complete package at the moment, you could say. And yeah, just stupid good. And then, yeah, it's just a shame he's getting outshone by these other also incredibly talented players like Brian Myers, Max Holmes, Bailey Smith, Stengel, and all this. Like,
Well, I guess maybe it's not a shame. Maybe it's just a byproduct of it. I just think it's
he's
our
doing
duty to fly the flag of Tom Atkins.
he's not doing the flashy stuff, but he's doing the hard stuff, the stuff that when you look back, you go, "Now we wouldn't like." You believe to Max Holmes would not be going, I'm such a great player because of my talent. He'd be going, I'm a good player because I've got all these other players around me. And Tom Atkins, who's fishing that ball out from the opposition to give us these opportunities again and again.
He's averaging 18.7 disposals, 5.6 clearances, and 9.7 tackles a game. I'd have to assume that's career best in all three of those for him.
It is. Let me just have a look for you. His previous season best tackles per game was 7.6. So he's 2 tackles per game better than that. His previous best clearances was last year. He had 5. It was 2023 where he had 5 clearances per game. He's had higher amounts of disposals before. He's averaged 19.4 before, but I actually think you hit the nail on the head previously, Chaps, when you're talking about complete player. Like, his goal assists He's currently up to 8 goal assists through 13 games. His career high in a season is 10 from last year. So he's going to blow well past that. His previous best goals kicked in a season was 5 back in his debut season in 2019. He's already at 4 goals won for the season. So, he's in range to kick. I know this doesn't sound huge, but like 8 or 9 goals. He's in range to have 15, goal assists or something. Like that is a marked improvement. And I really think, chaps, that the influx of like the new player like Bailey Smith, right? And the addition of players through the draft, when you draft players like Clohesy, Stevens, and Jai Clark, all of those players, they're all meant to be contested inside mids. They're all meant to really, in a lot of ways, be coming for Tom Atkins' job. That's the idea. In terms of that's the position they're looking to win over. That's the role. And I just think it's driven Tom Atkins to become the absolute like best version of himself. Like I think it's undoubted that he hasn't played a season like this before. This is career best Tom Atkins footy.
Yeah,
which is pretty exciting.
And knowing all of that, I messaged you before the game, Jake, and said I wouldn't say I was worried not having Bailey Smith, but I certainly did say this will be interesting to see how much we've come to rely on Smith, because I would have believed either. I would have believed the result we got, which is turns out not that much. Bailey Smith is amazing and he's, helping us win games, but he's doing it off the back of the work rate of these other guys we love. So, and it's a system-based team at the moment. These wins are very rarely off the back of one player. They're system-based wins. So it's basically like swapping out a piece and putting in a piece that will be slightly less efficient than Bailey Smith. But I also wouldn't have been shocked if the other thing happened. If he wasn't there, so he wasn't getting his hand on the ball that many times, which just wasn't creating as many opportunities. And we had this frustrating experience that we've had previously in recent memory of stacked back line, stacked forward line, pretty good midfield, but just can't get the connection from back to front. And so I was, as I said, I was very curious to see. And that just turned out to be not the case whatsoever.
Definitely.
What did you think of Mark O'Connor's performance? Because I'll be honest, he's hovering around my votes tonight. He's risen in my estimation massively. Like when I previewed the VFL squad this season, I said, I put Mark O'Connor, Jed Buse, there were a couple of other players. O'Shane Mullen was one. I put O'Connor in that list of like, I think I said, he was a sort of part of a group of like 6 or 7 players, both youth and rookie, who will probably be swinging in and out of the VFL side. They're looking to earn those last couple of spots in Geelong's starting lineup. And not only has he been in the starting lineup, I think I put him in the same basket as Atkins. I think this is the best season I've seen Mark O'Connor play. And I thought the game the other night, like, look, it's hard because he's played for the club for a long time, but I'd put the game against Melbourne where he came on as the sub and then just sort of pranced around the field taking intercept marks all over the place. And the game last night or on Saturday night, where like he was playing on ball at different times and like fully like out-bodying the Suns midfielders and winning lots of hard footy. Like that speaks to like not only his improvement, but like his versatility. Am I totally out on a limb and over the top? Am I taking tabs of acid here to think that Mark O'Connor is career best at the moment?
I think you need to start bloody saying these players should play in the AFL more often because they're not good enough for the in the VFL, sorry, because they're not good enough for the AFL. Because both times you said it, these guys are coming in and absolutely nailed what they're meant to be doing. So, no, you're definitely not taking acid or any other form of recreational drugs on Mark O'Connor. He is playing fantastic football.
Look out! Look out! The AFL bigwig is going to have to come in and have
Yeah,
a fireside chat with us
absolutely.
here. We're in a little bit.
If they
joking about
do,
drugs
we
and
know
stuff.
we've made it.
Yeah, I'll get the fire ready.
But no, he is playing
I'll
some
get the
really
carpet out
excellent,
and put one on the floor too.
excellent football this year. Like,
I
yeah,
think
Yeah,
I think statistically it backs it up too because he's career best averages in AFL ratings points. We don't really.
No.
Sorry, AFL fantasy points and ratings points. We don't
Exactly.
really. But he's career best in both of
Mm.
those. He's career best in disposals. He's career best in marks. Career best in tackles and career best in kicks as well. So there's some pretty significant
career best.
And is that
significant stats?
Career best stats there, but yeah,
And
his
and is
he's,
that on
I mean,
AFL?
is fantastic. Like, I couldn't be any more happy for the way he's playing. Like, he's taking some big names and taking them down with the opposition. But yeah, there hasn't been really a game where he's put his foot wrong lately, and he's really shown that Irish skills is really coming along nicely.
What was your question, Jake?
I was going to say, was that on AFL tables, those stats, or are they
No, it's just the AFL
on
website.
AFL.com? Okay, cool. So they'll be updated. I was just looking at tables before, and I think they update on a Tuesday night or something. The other thing, Johnny, because we know he can be a creative sort of like outside player. Like he is kind of a deceptive little dasher at times. I say little, like he's 191 centimeters. Like he's a big player, and that's what I'm convinced that Mark O'Connor is bigger and stronger this year. I don't know, like looking at him, he looks more of a beast, and I feel like his contested marking is better. His contested footy, he had 14 contested possessions. That was career best. He's never had that number before. So 14 contested possessions. It was career high in tackles for him. It was almost career best in clearances as well. I'm just trying to find what his number was in the end. It was one off equal career high. So yeah, he was playing bloody good footy on Saturday night, and I absolutely love it. And it's exciting when you see players who are hovering on the fringe, because for me, he was. I thought I felt very valid, like justified in what I wrote and talked about him before the season. It was like, what is his role going forward? He's going to have to define it for himself. Am I a starter or am I a backup? Am I a depth piece or am I best 23? And absolute credit to him. He's transformed himself into absolute best 23. I'd be shattered if they dropped Mark O'Connor. I'll be going, oh shit, how are we going to cope with his loss if he's out for a week or two?
And
Yeah,
I
he's
do wonder if he would
dropping
have
at
got
the
the
moment.
chance. If he would have got the chance without the outs we've had, like, is this just like one of those perfect sort of convergence points of him being ready to prove himself, but also getting that opportunity? Because obviously he doesn't play the same position as Cam Guthrie, but if Cam Guthrie's in there and Clohesy in there, if Henry had been fit all year, if Stewart had been fit all year, you just assume that O'Connor's probably not getting. He's probably not even getting the nod over Connor O'Sullivan either, because Connor O'Sullivan's, he's someone that they've clearly wanted to get some game time into. So you sort of do wonder.
Yeah.
And on the, I don't know if you guys are ready to move on or not, but on the on the forward line stuff, I was thinking that I feel like Danger and Cameron were probably hugely impacted by the fact that Neil went down and we'd already rested, managed Ollie Henry. That, like, you've got to imagine that once Henry wasn't in there and wasn't going to be coming out, and then that big presence, that big body of Neil was not on the ground. You've got to imagine that Danger and Cameron were having a lot of work put into them, because they were, like, the only targets, and that's what then allowed Stengel to come out, and just thank God he was so efficient. But yeah, I do think obviously it's a strange one, the makeup of a forward line, but I did feel like Neil has been doing so well and his work rate has been so high that he's been an unsung hero that's just been creating these opportunities for Cameron and Danger when Danger was in. So I feel for him personally, but also as far as their game goes, I feel like they were largely affected. And you would think, had we known Neil was going to go down, Henry would have been the sub because he's someone that can at least come in and try and, cause a little bit more disruption in the forward line.
Yeah, lucky it's just looks like it's a rolled ankle, so hopefully he won't be out
That's good.
too long. But that's what I just take from it. The way it looked on the live broadcast, it looked like he just rolled it. So I hope it's nothing too serious, and we see him out there after the bye, or hopefully even before the bye. But yeah, that was it was a shame, but I'm glad. Yeah, hopefully it's not looking too bad. I haven't actually seen anything. Won't see anything till tomorrow. Yeah, yeah, I thought Mark O'Connor was good, very good, smashed it. Tyson Sengel was really good, smashed it again. What's the next subject we're on to?
What did you guys think of? I think there's a few player performances that we can still talk about.
Mm.
I think we sort of covered it early, but like that was one of the better contested games I felt we played. I don't know about you chaps. Like I suppose you cover it when you say it was a complete performance, but like I felt like we bullied them in the physical part of the game for large
Felt like it.
parts.
Yeah,
And
I
what's
think
so cool is to have such a diversity, like the uncontested numbers, the contested numbers, all that stuff was great. But yeah, I guess there's a couple of players. I'd be interested to know what your thoughts just week to week. I'm interested. Shaun Mannagh. Twitter is so divided on Shaun Mannagh.
I
Like you see some
agree.
people saying he's absolutely fucking fantastic, and other people going he's classless and needs to be dropped from the side. Essentially, like where's the reality? Where's the truth?
I enjoy watching him play. Like, yeah, it wasn't like in terms of affecting the scoreboard, it wasn't his best game, but I still think he adds that threat. He's sort of threat to oppositions and to Cats. And sometimes, yeah, he does some really poor disposals off the foot, like where he just absolutely mungs the ball inside 50
There it is again.
No,
along the
John.
wing.
No. Oh,
But yeah, like for his faults, but what player doesn't have faults that they don't sometimes absolutely stuff a kick or a handball going forward? But I still think he's adding enough at the moment not to really be dropped. As I said, he's still got that threat of getting in the forward line and kicking 2 to 3 goals quickly. So yeah, as far as I'm aware, I like watching him play, and he adds value to this team.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions about why he's in there or if he should be. I don't really know. Like 23 touches, that's great. 17 of them kicks. 6 marks, 5 tackles, 6 clearances. Like we're on our team with. He was fourth in the team for clearances, 385 meters gained. There's a couple more stats that I thought were good. It was equal first in the team for inside 50s, so equal with Max Home and Mark O'Connor. And obviously Max Holmes had almost double the, so he got the same amount of inside 50s off about half the possessions. And nine of his 20 odd possessions were contested, and so that accounts for his disposal efficiency was only just north of 50%. But as I said, most of his touches were kicks and most were contested. So yeah, I don't really have any qualms about him, to be honest. I think he's sneakily underrated. He's one of those players that he's just doing a lot of things reasonably well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's not doing, and he probably strikes people as someone that should be doing 1 or 2 things at an elite level, because he kind of burst onto the scene when he came back. He had that little stint, and then he came back, and he was kicking goals, sneaky goals, left, right, and center. And I think he really wants to as well. So that might account like sometimes why he might have a shot that he shouldn't have here and there. But you look at those stats, it's real. Like he's affecting the ground everywhere. Like he's affected the game all over the ground. Sorry, is what I'm trying to say. He's not someone that's just an attacking weapon. He's not just a tackle machine. He's not just a clearance machine, but he is doing all of those things consistently. So yeah, I think you could, as John alluded to, you could ask for him to just clean up his kicks a little, but again, I wouldn't say much. Like it's nearly 53% disposal efficiency for a primarily contested kicking game. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think 23 is like he's a moderate accumulator. Like I would be worried if Shaun Mannagh had 6 touches.
Yeah. Well,
do you know what I mean? Like I would kind of go. He's the kind of guy. Like there's some players where you'd go, oh, they just weren't called into action. He's the kind of the guy that should be getting amongst it pretty consistently. So I think it's fine.
And he is getting there consistently. He's having 19 disposals per game, 4.7 tackles, 4.5 clearances, and nearly 1.2 goals a game. So that's a pretty solid. This is his second season playing AFL level.
Yeah, he's.
Do
you know what's
a pretty good stat line?
Funny? I look at him now, and I think I've changed the sort of player I think he is. Like, I don't personally think of Shaun Mannagh as a small forward. To be honest, I more think of him as someone who I think about him as a clearance winning option, an extra sort of small, gritty, hardball midfielder. He's part of that mosquito fleet of mids who complement like the guys who directly play on ball. Like, in some ways he's sort of like that front half stoppage player. I actually, and even having said that, like he's still on track to kick like 20 goals this season, probably a few more than 20. He's gonna clear, the best part of 100 tackles. He's gonna, be up around your sort of 80 or 90 clearances. Like he's another member of that support cast that's really, really important. And something I've been thinking about this year, chaps, is the way we move and fight for the ball when it's on the ground and how we manipulate it to our advantage, like a little flick here and just getting a little, just moving the ball to Geelong's advantage so that we're ready to spring away from a congested situation. And I just feel like Mannagh is smart and gritty in that way. And I honestly like the more he plays that role, the more I like him like that. And the less I'm really worried about him going forward and kicking goals.
And it's funny, the media is all over Brian Myers. He only got 6 score involvements, and then me over here going all over Tom Atkins. Oh, Tom Atkins had 6 as well. Guess who else had 6? Shaun Mannagh. It's just funny again how all our biases kind of like creep in about what a player does, and that's what we look for them to do. But no, I agree, Jake. I kind of feel like he's just like I said, he's kind of a little bit of an accumulator around stoppage. And I think there's probably some things he did that didn't hit the sheet. He was often the player that was like just knocking it forward. And I don't know what they count that as. If the ball's on the ground and that you just tap it forward to someone, is that a disposal? I don't think it is because it's not counted as a handball or a kick. So I feel like he was one of the ones that was doing that probably half a dozen times. So you could probably add another 6 touches to his stat without without any worry. So definitely. I'm happy. I'm happy with him. I think he's really good, and I like his vigor.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll say this too. Mark Blixar's went at 14% by foot. Reece Stanley 16% by foot. Oisin Mellon 25% by foot. Now Shaun Mannagh went at 35%. Max Holmes went at 48%. Now he had a lot more kicks to be fair, but like this idea too that people are like, he just slaps it on his boot, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like that sort of fits the way Geelong want to play.
Yeah,
as long as he slaps it on his boot to our advantage, and then the forwards are able to gather at the fall of the ball and trap it. Like he's kind of like the idea of being a meter gaining player. Let's get things flowing in our direction. But I understand sometimes he frustrates me To be honest, the times he most frustrates me are inside forward 50 when he doesn't do the team thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so that probably hasn't been a big an issue for me this year because I don't think he's been necessarily inside forward 50 as much. And just to say, he's already at 7 goal assists for the season. He had 9 last year. So he's going to beat that.
It's at 12
tally.
goals already.
Yeah, 12 goals in 9 games is in 10 games rather is very nice. So
yeah.
Let's do votes, chaps, because we can empty out anything else from the notebook. But I'm sure there's players we haven't talked about who are going to be in our votes that we need to sort of hashtag glaze here. Johnny, lead us off with your votes for players who stood out to us and did other stuff good too. Don't give us your reasoning yet. Just give us your players, and we'll talk about it after we've done our votes.
No worries. My 1 is going to Jack Henry, 2 Tyson Stengel, and my 3 are going to Maximus Homicus.
My 1 is Graham Myers.
I like
for
it.
Tom Atkins, and 3 for Holmes.
Nice. My 1 is the aforementioned Mark O'Connor. My 2 is Tom Atkins. My 3 is Max Holmes. So have we all got the same 2 and 3?
No. I've got Tyson.
No? Tyson.
Stengel.
We all got 3.
Oh,
you and I
same
both have
3
Atkins at 2.
All right.
And then we've all got different ones.
Well, all right. Well, I don't feel like I need to describe my 1 very much because I went on and on about him for about 15 minutes just before. But suffice to say, I just thought the couple of players that were vying for my 1 vote were Tyson Stengel, were Tom Stewart, were Graham Myers. And the reason I ended up going with Mark O'Connor was because I thought our ability to out-contest them in the middle and neutralise some of what they were wanting to do around the ball was important and led to us being able to get that and create opportunities for Stengel. And so I sort of felt like I went to the source on that one. And I think it's the best game I've watched Mark O'Connor play, potentially. So I gave him my 1.
Like it.
What about you, Johnny?
Jack Henry was my 1. Solid game. And you can see why the Cats are so good when Jack Henry and Tom Stewart are working in tandem the way they do. And I don't think he saw them once collide or get in each other's way in that defensive unit. If one was going for the mark, the other one was really there to get the handball off or receive a kick off each other. So I thought I just gave it to Jack Henry because I just really liked his game. I just thought it was like 10 intercept possessions. I think it was like 18 or 19 disposals. Hang on. Let me get the stats. 10 intercepts. Yeah, it's just a really the defense with Jack Henry is so much better. 18 disposals, 14 of them kicks, 4 handballs, 6 marks, 5 tackles, 115 meters gained. So I just really wanted to get him into votes this week. He's a talented player. That moment with Ben King inside the forward 50 when Ben King had the chance to dance around him, he just stood solid and got that ball outside the ground and caused a contested position for the Cats to rebound and go back inside 50. Yeah, I just thought it was great. And as Jake's just put up, he's faced 4 contested defensive one-on-ones, most of the team, and he didn't lose a single one of them. So, as I said, I was tossing up between him and Tom Stewart. I just decided to go with him just because. But yeah, those two working together again was just amazing to watch. And just remember how lucky we are that we've got these 2 players that just work so incredibly well together.
Henry also had 4th most ground ball gets on the ground for the Cats, and he had the 2nd most spoils on the team. I agree, Johnny. He was very, very good. Sambo, your 1?
And did other things good too.
That's right.
My 1 was Myers, and essentially he just did the same reason I gave him more of a last week. I feel like he was just kind of same again. And I do agree with the general consensus around that he's one of the best kicks inside 50 going around. Like his vision is just absolutely elite. And sometimes it's under such pressure in a limited amount of time. He'll get the ball with an incoming tackle, be able that one pop to the top with, and you go, how did he even see that player, let alone figure out how to get it to him in that scenario? So yeah, his vision is absolutely singular. Like I don't know if anyone else sees the game the way he does. I think he was second on the team for kicks, equal second, sorry, with Tom Stewart. But also I think the thing that really stood out to me for him was his what's always good, his work rate, but his defense stuff as well. He laid a couple of tackles that just you wouldn't, I guess, excuse them not sticking or like not going as hard as he did. Sometimes when it's in the forward the forward half of the ground, and they're about to get away, and that has been that has been so damaging for us this year. Is when teams are able to get a turnover on a breakaway, committed so heavily to the attack that the defense is sort of left a little bit out of sorts. And so obviously Henry and Stewart have helped with that defensive part of it. But I do think that our forward half pressure is really good. And yeah, there's just a couple of times where you're like, Ryan Myers doesn't need to be tackling like that. Like if he just did the attacking stuff, if he's just kicking it like this and just getting these score involvements, he's still in our top rung of players. Like he's still an instant lock. Like he could essentially do half of what he's doing and still be a talking point player because of how good he does that. But then he also has the rate, the ground coverage, the tackling, and the defensive work to go with it. So I kind of just marveling at him a little bit. I feel like we've got a lot of those, and that's I think Mannah's in not as yet as good, but he's in a similar conversation where I think we've got a lot of players that do like go above and beyond. They perform the roles they're in there for, and that would be enough to get you selected in an AFL team. But with the modern game the way it is, and the specific the way the Cats operate, the coverage, the ground coverage we need, we have a lot of players that just do so much extra for the team, and he's one of the leading men in that area, I would say.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Love it. So who do we have for 2? And Sambo or someone? Stengel.
Johnny can talk Stengel.
I had Stengel. Yeah, just one of those games where we needed a forward to stand up, and he stood up sensationally. Like that first goal of his on the boundary line he's been practicing with Jeremy Cameron, absolutely 100%, because that was a Jeremy Cameron like kick he did, and as soon as you just see it was just arcing in perfectly, and then get the 4 goals and get the goals when we needed them. Yeah, it's full credit to Tyson, and he did it off 11 disposals and still brought the pressure, still brought that running gut running and the pressure that we saw in 2022. So yeah, I just thought it was one of those games. I think I said it to you guys that we needed that player to stand up to score some goals. And when Jeremy Cameron wasn't able to, when Patrick Dangerfield wasn't able to, and Shannon Neal went off, like we still got this extremely talented small forward that can take contested marks, can get around other players and kick beautifully off set shot. So hopefully this is a really positive game for him, that he can launch into the second half of the season and really tear it up again. Because it's exciting when he gets going.
Love it. Do we need to talk about Atkins, Sambo? Do you have any more to say, or do we sort of cover it in the? Yeah. Well, then you have first bite of the Max Holmes ice cream.
It's a bit of a melted, already eaten ice cream at the moment. Like I feel like it's tough to add. I always like to feel like you can add something new to a conversation. If you're gonna have a podcast, you want to be saying stuff that's at least specific to you. Where I feel like Holmes getting pretty well in the wider press. Not to say like we're not going to talk about him, but yeah, like it's just like phenomenal, like absolutely incredible. Like going into the game, going, how much have we come to rely on Smith and even Holmes himself? How much has Smith helped Holmes do what he's been doing? You kind of don't know, which is sort of raising the other one up, lifting them to their level, and we still don't know because it's certainly not Max Holmes that's being lifted by Smith. So it might be neither of them, but it could be the other way around too. Like, yeah, for Smith to go down and then for us to have a player that like get 40 disposals to kind of go like not just build a hole, but like kind of perform it even better than it has been getting performed. Yeah, it was incredible, and he looked like he was like the scary thing is he looked like he was in second gear most of the. I thought, like, not to say his effort is at all in question, but just his speed, his I guess the way he reads the game allows him to kind of just cruise around. And I'm sure it's not. I'm sure his heart's pumping and he's operating tough, but the way he carries himself and how composed he is, you would think that we were 120 to 12 points up, and he was kind of going, I might run it here and take it down the ground a bit and see if I can get closer in. He's just shy of a couple of epic goals every game, isn't he? Because he has a crack. He really wants to add that to his arsenal. Is that he just consistently gets like a bomb goal every game. But he is the player. Like, yeah, without Smith, it was going to be interesting. And now I go, if Holmes gets suspended or like has a precautionary rest, it'd be really interesting to see how Smith now operates without Holmes.
Yeah, yeah. It was difficult not to give Max Holmes 3 votes because that was a Max Holmes 3-vote game. That was just incredible to watch. Like, yeah, he was just absolutely everywhere. I did have a laugh when he said his 40th disposal was during the dying minutes of the game. He was on the bench on 39. And one of the bench guys, I can't remember who it was, said, you're on 39 disposal. We'll just get you back out there so you can get your 40th. And he's like, my last disposal was an absolute disaster, but I still got there. But yeah, the way he went about it was just incredible. Like his attack, his ability to break tackles now. Like I don't think I ever saw him get tackled once. And if he did, he was still able to dispose the ball efficiently and cleanly, and that intercept, that read of the ball and the intercept, that setup. I think it was Tyson's first goal or third goal, whatever it was. If it was Tyson's, I can't remember who he set up to, but that reading of the game, of the ball movement, and the way the Suns were playing, yeah, he was spot on. And yeah, as I said, same thing about Stengel. If this is where his best starts going ahead, and we get Bailey Smith back next week, like these two together are going to be pretty unstoppable. And as Sam said, it's going to be interesting now to see how Bailey Smith will cope without him.
Well, hopefully we don't have to find that out this year. Hopefully we just get the two of
Fingers
them
crossed
right the way through to a fucking 2025
I wouldn't be
flag.
surprised if there's. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a rest though.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, like a week,
hard running players.
If we've banked enough,
and
I think they'll turn this Bailey Smith sort of awareness into an extended break, even if he's right to play. I feel like they'll give him extra rest, and then at some point Holmes will get a week or two. I think,
especially with
it'll just be interesting,
especially with the recent history of finals and unfortunate events for.
Don't say it. Don't say
that's why I'm not saying it. I said unfortunate events.
Skirting on the edge.
If it happens, it's your fault because I didn't say it.
You said it more than I said it.
I know. You brought it up.
Rested.
I just want to offer. I think that I don't reckon Bailey Smith will come back this week against the Bombers. Personally, I think he'll come back against
I'll be
Brisbane
surprised.
the following week.
It's
But anyway.
interesting. Max Holmes just doesn't get tackled. Can you guys think of a really prominent example of Max Holmes getting tackled?
As I said, if he does get tackled,
No.
he disposals of it.
Yeah. Like I do feel like
you know what?
his read of the oncoming pressure is pretty darn good.
Mm.
Can I tell you the highest compliment I can pay him?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not Judd-like, by the way. It was a moment, and there's maybe had one or two this season where there's a congested center clearance situation, and you just know the ball's in contest, and you're like, oh, I did just see Max Holmes sort of crack in there. And then all of a sudden he's emerging like at speed on the other side of the like center square, and he's just dashing away in space. You're like, how the fuck did he get out of that clean? And one of the only other players I've ever seen that does that was absolute peak prime Gaz Jr. And I'm not saying that Max Holmes is that player, but that was a facet of Gary Jr.'s play where it's like suddenly it's like a bar of soap. He's just like slipped out of the contest. You're like, how the fuck did he get in the clear? He was just surrounded by like 3 or 4 players. Max Holmes, I think, has that. He's got that little facet. Like, obviously Gaz was a complete, demigod on the field, but Max Holmes has that little factor of like, I was racking my brain of like, I've seen this before. And like that was where I'd seen it. Just like, surely it's going to be wrapped up for a tackle. And no, not only do we get a clearance away, we get a clean, uncontested clearance where he's just gone clear with his burst. He's magnificent to watch. I just wanted to offer you, the public audience, a couple of stray stats. This is stuff I'd normally keep in the chamber for Patreon, and there's more of it to come for the Patreon subscribers because I want to talk about Brad Close in a bit more detail. But Tyson Stengel, chaps. Tyson Stengel is a player that before he came to Geelong had played in 18 matches in 3 seasons on Richmond and Adelaide's list. He had kicked 15 goals in those, 16 games. 15 goals in 16 games. He's now played 82 games for the Cats, has kicked 145 goals for us. I think he's one of the best turnaround stories that you've seen. He's on pace to kick 35 plus goals this season. And to put that in perspective, he kicked 53 his first year, 27 in 19 games the next year, 46 goals, 18 last year. He's currently got 19 goals, 12. So he has, made an incredible player out of himself, and it's testament to Geelong's list churning ability.
Oh yeah, he's so good to watch. Premiership player, first year coming in to the Cats. So glad we got him. Thanks, Eddie Betts, for helping us get Tyson Stengel on the Cats.
That's right. All right. That's all for the public part of the show. We're going to cross over now to Patreon for another probably 45 minutes plus of stuff. We're going to start with a bit of a chat about Brad Close, and I also want to pick you lads' brain about Ted Clohesy, what you saw from him on the weekend, how you feel. I've obviously watched an absolute boatload.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was going to say, I've watched a boatload of him in VFL. So I kind of want to see what you guys are thinking about him as a player, having only seen him in the snippets of AFL he's played, and where you sort of put the game he played on the weekend. So we'll talk about those 2 players, and there'll be much more apart from that as well. So go on, sign up for a 7-day free trial on the Hoops Group Patreon. Yes, Jack Martin must be discussed. So yes, we will get there. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Be a darling and hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. We'd appreciate it. And until next time, go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.